All right.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Yay!
How's everyone doing?
Hi there.
Not too bad.
Good.
Hello.
Oh, good. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey there.
Okay.
What's happening?
I can hear Dennis. I can't see Dennis.
Here I am.
I can see Dennis.
He's there. He's there.
I know. I'm
I
inside.
just saw him pop up.
Anything.
You guys are popular. Look at y'all.
Yay!
You should be. You're darn good authors.
It's the cover that got him.
Thank you.
I
Absolutely.
do love that cover. That's a great cover.
Yeah, it's a very good cover.
Not yet.
Thank you. There's a funny story behind it, which I'll share once we get everybody here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that a real live model that you used, or did you?
Yeah,
It was a
someone
real
holding
life
a-
model.
Oh, okay.
Dennis
The spider was not real. The model would have died if the
Hey,
spider.
there I am in the dark.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty. Well, everyone, first of all, thank you all so much for coming here tonight. I'm going to be keeping an eye on our participants list as we go. So if you see me kind of wandering away, I'm not checking text messages, maybe, but I'm making sure that we have everybody here and everything's good. And I am, by the way, S. Faxon, also known as Sarah, one of the editors and creators of Released. And we also have Teresa here tonight, who is also one of the editors.
I am. So yeah, this was Sarah's and my brainchild. It's our first anthology as part of No Bad Books. So thank you guys so very much for being a part of this and submitting your stories and putting up with the questions from me on like, so your one character did this. Is that what you wanted it to do?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of you guys got those, and I so appreciate all the answers and everything else. We do have one more person that I know is trying to join us. And she did a lot. She was our proofreader. So when I made comments on like our proofreader, that was her, but I don't see her on here. I just texted her. I think she's just having an extra minute. So
I'll
Yeah.
tell a quick story about the cover to give her a chance to come on in. So I was the cover designer for this. So first of all, No Bad Books Press composes of Teresa and myself. We don't have any contractors. We do everything in-house with the exception of the incredible proofreading from Stephanie. So we'll get to how incredible she is in just a minute. But we do this entirely from scratch, I guess, or in-house. And so with the cover art, we'd originally were going to do much more of a fantasy theme. And we had like this really beautiful, flowery blue cover. And then the submissions started coming in and we're like, oh crap, this is a horror story. So we had to totally scrap the first cover that we had, and it's saved somewhere. So maybe next time or next anthology, good Lord, am I saying that? Maybe next time we'll have that cover in use. But very last minute, we realized we had to change to adapt to the incredible stories that were coming in. So we played with a couple of different things, and we ended up kind of on the spur of a moment. My boyfriend and I took a couple of pictures of myself wearing this very shirt and doing something like this. I was like, I want to be holding something, but I don't know what, maybe a skull or something like that. And then Teresa and I decided on spider, and I was like, crap again, because I'm arachnophobic. And now I have to stare at a dang spider for hours at a time and put it on my own hand. So I think this was kind of like a therapy thing. I don't think it really worked, but we made this spider super creepy looking. It was just a common garden spider, super high quality image that we vamped up to the next level. And here we have the cover of Released.
Oh,
Wow.
I like it.
I
Yeah.
gotta say, everybody that's seen this has loved it. Absolutely loved it.
good.
Thank you.
Good.
It's a lot of fun to
it's-
study covers.
Yeah, it really is just fantastic, and it's so much fun when it all comes together. And Sarah and I, we were meeting with another author last night because we decided to do a complete revamp of a cover for her. And she really was so very pleased by it. So more to come on that.
I do believe our special guest has arrived.
Oh, yay. Okay, I was just checking. Steph, you there?
Yep, coming back. Sorry, I have to fix my. There we go. Trying to get my video right.
There you are. Hey, you.
Hi.
So we just wanted to give Stephanie a huge shout out because she did such a fantastic job proofing these and just asking all these nitty-gritty questions. I know Chris's story in particular, she really was very much like, wait, what about
Well, I
this
have a
and what
big
about
space
that?
screen.
Great. And really, I think actually like really made the story just a little bit better. And I know Chris was really like, oh, those are really good questions. I just can't say enough of a thank you to Stephanie for doing that, because she really put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to making these stories so incredible and asking all these nuanced questions. So a huge thank you.
And it was my pleasure to do this. I was so excited to be a part of it and just amazed by everybody's wonderful stories and the writing. It's just every single one of them was so different and unique. And I'm so happy to be a part of this. Thank you. Thank you all.
And again, thank you, Stephanie. Really, this really came together because of you. And we again want to thank all of you amazing authors for helping us bring this dream to life. About a year ago, Teresa and I were like, let's do an anthology. Or not even a year, like 9 months ago. We're like, man, let's see what we can do. And here we are. And it was definitely a big learning experience for us. And that, I think, was probably one of the most wonderful things about this was we were able to dabble in so many different elements of publishing that we weren't familiar with at all. So this was a huge boon to our careers and our endeavors here as No Bad Books Press. So truly, thank you, authors, for diving with us on this adventure. And tonight we're going to get to hear from every single one of you who wrote a piece in our book here. And we're going to ask our authors to tell their name, a little bit about their story, and to read one paragraph from their short story. So that's going to be our program here tonight. Chris is here.
Right. Yep, Chris is up. I love your, oh my God, I love it so much.
All right. I was like, oh, they're going alphabetical. Damn it, I'm in trouble. So I wrote a story called Unleashed. It's a sci-fi story, actually. So I'm pretty excited to have this as part of the anthology. Just a little backstory before I read. The story is set on another planet. It's involves a prison guard. He is actually what they call a steward in a prison system that deals with people who are psychic, and they kind of put their souls into somebody else's head to keep them from being able to be psychically active and taking advantage of other people while their bodies are kind of on ice. And the story is from the point of view of the prison guard. So I will just get started with that. How are you feeling, Hudson? His weekly sight check was daily now. Annoyed, he blurted. The contract is very specific about this. When there's a problematic prisoner, a steward has the right to turn it down. They stuck him in my head without asking, though. Now I'm forced to come in daily to pass your test. You're paid very well to come in every day. They've reminded me. I had a right to say no, though. Why is everyone forgetting that? You've never said no, no matter the prisoner. Why does this one bother you? I can hear him. Do you speak to him? No. It was a small lie, but he felt it deeply. He was doing his best, but I can hear him. He rubbed his hands together and looked back at the day's therapist. He hadn't got her name on the way in. Did you read the prisoner's file? I never do. It doesn't matter what they did. My job is to keep their souls alive and safe from harm or harming anyone else. I'm not the judge or jury. It might help you deal with him. I have the file. If I need that sort of reinforcement, I'll look at it, but I've never had to before. I know the routes I need to take if he becomes an issue. Have a good day then, Stuart. And know that what you're doing is a great service to your people. Oh, yes, came the all too familiar voice of the prisoner. What a service, keeping a soul in the back of your head while their bodies rot and you pretend to be doing a good deed. And that's the end of my little reading.
Well done. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was awesome. I'm actually going to go and read that story after we're done. All right, Evan.
Yes, hi. My name is Evan Boffman. I wrote a story called We See You. It's very spidery. So, Sarah, I apologize for forcing the arachnids upon you, I guess.
It was a sobering thing to read some of these spider ones.
And you weren't the only one with a spider one, but yeah. And
we took them.
Yeah, this one, I'm not using spiders for my Halloween decorations. I'm just going to say that.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the premise for this is a woman goes driving around a nice neighborhood looking at all the, I guess, expensive, cool looking Halloween decorations, and one of them is actually alive, and it starts following her around. So that's the premise. And here is, I guess, the opening of the story that kind of describes what this animatronic looks like. Hairy black spider legs protruded from the woman's face. Inside her skull, a massive arachnid forced its appendages through her cheeks. The wriggling limbs resembled morbid piercings from a tattoo parlor for the damned. The big bug sat atop her tongue and poked its head out of her screaming mouth, like a turtle emerging from its shell. The woman's eyes were bulging white orbs rolled backwards, mercifully incapable of seeing the nightmare living in her head. She clutched her throat as she choked on the overgrown tarantula. Her nightgown was blanketed in thick webbing, and her wrists were bound together by spider silk manacles. And that is it. So thank you for letting me come here and read. Yeah.
I will never look at Halloween decorations the same after his short story. It was so good.
Yeah, that was a really good one. All right, next up, excuse me. Next up is Joe, who I don't think made it in. All right.
So then we have Dennis.
Make sure there's no more B's or CAs.
No, it's all you. It's all you.
Well, first, cheers to everybody. Congratulations on this anthology. This when I saw that you guys were putting a press together and the anthology was coming, I was like, part of me was like, it's about time, because I feel like Sarah and Teresa are right there, and it's great just to be a part of it. So very happy and proud to be in this anthology with all these great authors. So my story is called Rise of the Diva. Now, I had my debut novel came out last November. I've got my second one coming out this November. This story is a prequel to that series. It actually takes place 20 years before my novels. And it really kind of gives rise to who the true big bad is in my series. In the first novel, you kind of think it's one guy, then at the very end, there's this mysterious woman that plays a part. In the second book, she has a much bigger role. So for people that want to be in the know, they probably want to buy this book and read this story so that they can check out what's happening in book 2. My books are urban fantasy. They involve a lot of Greek mythology, mostly set in modern times and around the Chicagoland area. But I'll just read this first part and you can kind of get a sense for where I was going. The hairline crack in the window pane started in the bottom left corner and moved slowly on an angle until it reached the midway point in the glass. As a tremor hurried through the concrete walls, the crack in the glass splintered, moving in 5 directions. Each new crack formed 3 of its own. As the tremor in the walls increased, the window's integrity failed, causing an explosion of glass. The explosion was mirrored in adjacent windows as the intensity of the tremors increased. The concrete that made up the walls chipped away little by little. The fluorescent bulbs overhead flickered, then exploded in a haze of glass and mercury vapor. The desks in the library shook, all but the largest in the center. That desk was still, as was the jar resting on top. The jar glowed, first a golden hue, illuminating the exquisite glyphs that decorated it. Then a reddish hue highlighted the letters. All that began when a graduate student translated from ancient Greek to modern English the last word on the jar: release. As chaos reigned around it, the jar glowed. The light expanded, filling the room. The grad student and her boyfriend cowered in a corner, unable to escape the scene as they were frozen in fear. Heat filled the immediate area, and there was an audible sizzle that was followed by a large pop and a gust of wind. As the light dimmed, the pair saw a swirling cloud escape the jar. Gray smoke rushed to the ceiling and spread in tendrils across the tile. Mouths agape, the pair watched as the tendrils coalesced next to the table upon which the jar sat, into a human form. As it solidified, they could see bare legs forming, then arms, a torso, breasts, and finally a head. The woman standing bare before them had smooth mocha skin, a crop of jet black hair, and a pixie haircut, and tattoos of various shapes and patterns across her midsection. Her eyes were closed. As the last of the rattling stopped, a single shard of glass fell. As if awakened by the noise, the woman opened her eyes that glowed an ethereal blue. She looked around, seemingly unfazed by all that just occurred. When her eyes settled on the pair, she smiled. "Thank you," she said, and then she simmered out of view into nothing. And that's it. That's the opening scene.
And I just have to give a shout out to Dennis for his other books. He's a fantastic writer. So if you like urban fantasy, they're so good, so good. So I really highly recommend them. And this was actually a really great kind of bridge for his second book, which is not out, but I got to read it.
And there are spiders in mine too, so sorry. Which is strange because I have arachnophobia. Like I don't like spiders, like even a little bit. There's nothing cute about them. I hear they help the environment and that's all great, but they're not paying rent, so they should not be in my house. And that's the line that I draw.
That's fair. I agree with this. They're good outside, but not in here. All right. Well, again, thank you, Dennis, for that. And next up, we have Tobin.
All right. So this was based on something that actually happened several years ago. I was actually caught in a torrential rainstorm with some friends. Didn't turn out like it did in the story. But I'll give you a little bit here where the first guy gets out of the car and he has to read. This is what happens. He got 10 feet before he disappeared. He just vanished into the water. We laughed our brains out. The stupid ass fell in the water. What a maroon. What an ultra maroon. Al and I thumped the dash and howled. Then Ian said something and we sobered up. I don't think he fell, guys. Didn't you notice? There wasn't any splash. It almost looked like he was sucked down. As soon as Ian said it, we realized it looked like he'd fallen, but no, there was no accompanying splash. Comparing notes, we realized he dropped straight down as though into a hole, maybe an open manhole or something. And as we sat there watching, he wasn't coming back up. Al and I both opened our doors to go help, but Al was faster. He was out and he was gone, straight down, just like Steve. He barely had time to get out a small abbreviated scream. I yanked my foot back in. I'd seen something dark, black on black, in the water, level with the door frame, just before I shut my door. Ian was screaming something unintelligible. Then a hand came up as I thought, Al? Steve? And it grabbed this passenger side door frame. It was wet, shiny, glistening, and human. And then, I'm sorry, I can't write what happened next. I just can't. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I loved the dialogue in this one, especially the inner dialogue and how the story was told. It was really, really fun. Yeah. And you made the trailer. You were one of the don'ts.
I know. I was really impressed that on social media it's, hey, I'm this one.
Right. All right. Ms. Molly. I love this one too.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited for many reasons, but also because I was like, oh, I go next. Oh, that's right. My pen name says Ewing. That puts me towards the beginning of the alphabet. So hello, everyone. I wrote a story. It's called The Resonance. It is also a sci-fi story and takes place on an alien ship out on the deep dark, and they receive a strange distress call. Also, before I go jump into the little snippet I chose, thank you for all the people who are here supporting me. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside. And thanks to Sarah and Teresa for the lovely anthology. Thanks to all the fellow authors. This is great. And also all of the animals popping in are really amusing me tonight. All right, I'm going to jump into my little snippet. Two Klaxrions crouched behind a heap of material. Some of the items I recognized: textiles, technical devices, an upturned table. Other items were completely foreign. How did they travel through space in such a mess? Did they secure everything when pulling maneuvers, or just let the items fly through the air as hazards? A laser bolt exploded against the bulkhead near my head, singeing the tips of my whiskers and the hair on my right distal ear. I leapt back behind the door, cautiously peeking in this time. And that's my snippet.
Ooh, I love it.
Thank you all.
Oh, this one was really good too. And I have to say, as Stephanie had a lot of questions on this one too. So it was good. I liked it. All right. Next up, we have Sarah. Ms. S. Faxon.
So thank you. Excuse me. My short story is called Face ID, and it's based on a night where a couple of coworkers go out to unwind. They go to their local bar, and one of the coworkers was only not really invited, but was specifically not welcome. And it's told from the story of the person who just really wishes this other coworker had stayed home. Excuse me. But the longer we sat there, the more uncomfortable it became. Jessie's buggy blue eyes, framed by camel-like eyelashes, pointed into me. The feeling of dread her eyes bore into me made my stomach so uncomfortable that I almost didn't want to eat. But she was not going to ruin this night for me. I should have known this was going to happen. Jessie was a creep at work, but Chelsea was too nice and invited her out with us when Jessie pushed herself into our conversation about our plans for the night. She said she knew the place, that she lived down the block from it, but that she'd never been here. Chelsea, in her typical sweet way, shared that we live nearby too, and that she should join us. Chelsea's own kindness left her blind, and she didn't seem to notice the dirty-nailed creeper staring at me. Being watched while trying to eat felt like everything I was doing was wrong, and being hyper self-aware while eating a sloppy food like chicken wings drained all the pleasure from it. Ugh, Jessie, why'd you have to come? And that is my snippet.
And this one's a really fun one too. It was really great how we kind of had so many different like horror aspects. We had sci-fi with some horror in it, but this one's
Psychological?
Yeah. Or
Slash
slasher.
slasher. It gets
Yeah.
there.
So, all right. Now we have John Floyd. John Floyd. Sorry, my cat's tail is blocking my screen.
Winchester, your assistant.
Hey, y'all, I'm John Floyd. My story is called Annabelle, and it, of course, is a horror story. It's set in the rural South. I grew up in the South, so it's easy for me to write about the places and the folks here. It's about a young lady who wakes up in the hospital. She has both legs broken, her arm broken. She can't really remember what happened, but she is told that she was in an accident. And she does remember the face of a man who she believes saved her. And the little snippet, I guess I'll read, I've got it on the screen here, is it's near the first when after she wakes up in the hospital bed, and the sheriff is there and the doctor, and the sheriff's name is Draper. Says she says, didn't anybody talk to the man who was there? Because they were asking her what happened, and she really doesn't remember much except the car, and she's told the car burned up. She says an older man was there, friendly face, a scar over his left eye. She raised her hand to touch her forehead. He wore a floppy hat and overalls like a farmer. Draper, that was the sheriff, frowned. There was no one else there, Miss Graham. Well, this man was. He unbuckled me, picked me up. He carried me in his arms from the car. Another glance passed between the two men. I think it's time for you to rest a bit now, the doc said. Sheriff, listen to me. He must have left before you arrived. No one carried you to where we found you, Miss Graham, and you didn't walk there by yourself either. The room was beginning to spin. Helen tried to concentrate on what he had said. How do you know that? Well, because that gully was muddy. Everything was muddy. It rained yesterday. Well, what does that? That's enough for now, the doctor said. He gave the sheriff a hard look. No, wait, Helen said. Answer me. What does it matter that it rained the day before? Sheriff Draper didn't move. His eyes stayed locked with Helen's. There were no footprints, he said quietly, not anywhere around you. And so I guess it's kind of a mystery in a way, because she wants to find out what happened. She wants to find the guy who saved her. And that's what the story is. So needless to say, who she finds doesn't turn out to be what she expected. But this story was great fun to write, and I want to congratulate y'all for the anthology. I can't wait to read everybody's.
Oh, all these stories are so good. And I loved this one because this one was deep and had a very subtle horror twist to it, but it's very much there, and you really are like, wait, what?
Good. I'm glad it made you feel that way.
Yeah.
No, it really did. It was a really good paranormal story.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Teresa, I was like, I don't care what genre and we end up putting this in, this story has to be in.
Thank you.
That was a good one. I really liked it. Okay, let's see here. Next we have Douglas. I thought I saw his name on there.
Okay. Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
There he is.
Yep. Hi. So it's an honor sharing a table of contents with everybody. Thank you for including me. So this story was inspired by a local news item that I came across. It was about police found a dead body in a hotel room, but they also found a cage with a monkey in it and a woman who was disoriented. And I came to the conclusion that any logical person would have come to, that the monkey was obviously possessed and there was obviously a botched exorcism. So, I mean, anyway, so the story that I wrote came out of this was about basically somebody who's doing a grift with a monkey that was allegedly possessed and was going to sell this to a very religiously fervent person who had ulterior motives. So this is the paragraph from my story. Doubt in his face. This man didn't want to part with money And Lavisa scolded herself for not insisting on money up front. Lately, she found herself losing the hardness that carried her through life. She learned that hardness from her grandparents, exiles from the old country, who brought with them their traditions and beliefs and used them to frighten her with stories about the springs, the local springs. They used to take her right up to the fence circling the ring of trees and the unseen waters beyond, telling her to stand very still and listen. And she would obey, listening and dreading until she heard the screaming. That, they said in their old tongue, that is the screaming of unwanted children thrown into water by parents unable to care for or feed them. The Drevakak. You don't obey us, we'll throw you in as well. As their bodies sank below the surface, a plume of steaming water hundreds of meters below roasted their young flesh, causing it to fall away from their bones like a holiday turkey. The image always haunted her. In hindsight, Lavisa suspected the screams she heard came from local wildlife. But from her grandparents, she developed her inclination toward the occult, as well as an education into what frightened and fascinated others, the power of belief. That's the end.
Love it. Okay, so I have to say this story and they all freaked me out to some level. This one disturbed me on a very primal level.
Oh, good.
Right?
You all disturbed us on some primal level.
Yeah, you
Just
did.
putting
You
that.
did. But this one, I don't know what it was for me, but this one I was like, it's really good, but I'm disturbed.
Well,
It had a
Turn the
great
lights
twist
on.
in it that I loved. And yeah, I read all of these before noon. I did not read a single one of your stories after noon because I didn't know what to expect when we were first getting these. And I didn't want any more bizarre dreams than I already have. Yes, Amanda, time to sleep with the lights on in the chat. Absolutely. Alrighty, and now we have Miss Teresa.
All right. So my story is With Wings, I'll Make You Fly, and it's about a mad scientist set in the 1950s. And one of my favorite parts of this is that as you read it, there's a soundtrack going throughout it. And what she wants to do is she wants to give her paralyzed brother wings so that he can fly. And I'm not going to read a snippet. I'm just going to say 2 words: vampire hummingbirds.
Can you
That's
talk
enough.
a little bit about the inspiration behind this?
Oh, I blame Molly. This was actually, so it's a little bit of a tangent here. If you guys are familiar with Sarah, Molly, and Morgan, I saw Morgan on here too. And my podcast, we're the semi-sages of the pages. We don't know where we're going, but we're on an adventure. And the way we record our podcast, and we're very open and upfront about it, is that we just riff. We just go wherever the conversation takes us. And the conversation took us to vampire hummingbirds. So that's what my story is about. Set in the 1950s, mad scientist, vampire hummingbirds.
So all of our next tattoos are vampire hummingbirds because that's
Well, of
just
course.
fascinating imagery. And they're scary. So, they were very intense creatures created out of this podcast. And so another little line about the podcast: we are a writing podcast, and we do talk about anything related to writing, or trials or tribulations or triumphs, and different topics, everything from anger to fear to family. So that's just a little plug for the semi-sages of the pages. And now back to our show.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie says this story is so incredibly me, and she's right. So, all right, Christina, you're up.
Unmute. Okay, well, my story's called Eyewitness, and I actually wrote this a long time ago, and I couldn't quite gel. I didn't know what I was trying to say with it, and then so I just left it there for years. And then one day I picked it up, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't that bad. This is pretty good." I mean, so I rewrote it a little bit, and finally I kind of came up with what I wanted to say with it. And it's about a young guy in his 20s. He works in New York City as a hedge fund or some sort of Wall Street analyst. And one day he wakes up hungover and with an eye that appears on his arm. And the eye sees truth about him and about life. He lives quite a privileged life on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And so the eye starts seeing him, and he starts getting increasingly disturbed by what it sees. And it has a bit of a twist at the end, but I'll leave that. So here's my snippet, very short. David dried the rivulets of water dribbling down the nape of his neck with the towel. As he lowered his arm, the skin over the lump peeled back. He froze. A brown eyeball stared at him. He yelped and reeled back, tumbling onto the bed. He saw his blanched face, the purpled crescents under his eyes, the overhang of hair covering his ledge of a forehead. He squeezed his eyes shut and reopened them. It was like looking into a mirror. The eye was seeing him. He shook his arm like a rag doll, and the eye closed. Was he really awake? This had to be a nightmare. If it was, he needed to wake up. Now, he bit on a forefinger, hard. He was awake. The eye fluttered open. Panic seared him, then an uncontrollable jitter. Stay calm, dude. Think. He was hallucinating. Could someone have slipped LSD into his drinks last night? Who would do that? Did he fight with someone? Possibly. Caffeine. That would clear his cobwebbed brain. That's it.
I loved this one too. I think this might have been one of the first ones I read.
It could have been, yeah.
I loved this character so much. This was such a well actualized character of somebody that, you know, a lot of people may not like very much, but he was so well done. So really nice work.
Thank you.
Also freaky with the eye thing. All right.
And yes, Chris, caffeine does save the day.
Well, the only thing I live off of. Okay, I don't think I saw Stephen Johnson unless he managed to make it in and I missed him. I don't think I saw him though. All right.
No.
So next we have Brian James Lewis. I think I saw him.
Yes, he's here.
Yay. Okay, cool.
And asking to unmute.
There we go.
There you are.
All right. Hi, guys. So I feel now that I have a Southerner in the room, I guess this will be kind of a test for this story a little bit. I was sort of inspired to write this particular horror story, which is called Hell to the Holler, from a friend who wrote a book called Snapshot, which occurs in the Kentucky hollers, where they still do a lot of coal mining, and it's still presently very isolated type environment. And he kind of said, well, I don't think you could probably write a horror story about this area. And it did take me a while, I'll have to say, but I did come out with a pretty good story. And it's about two characters, well, three, but Junior is the main narrator, and his dad, whose name is Pop, and Miss Jackson, who's a witch, and they are doing odd jobs around the holler and run afoul of Miss Jackson, who decides to do something pretty bad to Junior, where she messes up his face in a serious way that's going to cause him to starve, because Pop is now gone as well, thanks to her. Goodness. And I decided actually to go to the ending because I felt like the beginning would just be way too long, as I am already talking way too long. So here we go. So Junior at this point is it's kind of a turning point for him. He's got, tonight I got everything packed in the truck, and our alarm clock is set for 2 a.m. And when it rings, that's going to be my signal to take my fiery new friend. He's got a flamethrower. That's his fiery new friend, over to Miss Jackson's place and burn it to the ground. And after that, I'll keep turning homes into balls of flame until I run out of fuel. This holler needs a cleansing of all the filth and those who just don't give a fuck. When trouble came to me and Pop, you would have thought that our neighbors would have been kind enough to at least offer a hand or a prayer. And yet, despite our kindness to others, nobody did. They just shunned us like we were lepers, abandoned us to our fate. The jobs dried up until all we were good for is delivering cheap firewood. But, I guess that's for the best because I know where everybody's wood pile is and I got a flamethrower. So we'll see who gets the last laugh on that. And either death is going to destroy this witch's curse and give me my face back. And if that happens, I'll drive this old Dodge away from here and try to start a new life. But if it don't, then I'm just going to roll right into the middle of those raging flames and let them consume me. Either way, it's time to bring some hell to the holler. And that's it.
Oh, I love this story. And I'm going to read Steph's comment. It says, Junior's voice is so unique. He was one of my favorite narrators. And I would 100% agree with that. This story, it was so unique and so well told about a part of the United States that we don't really know too much about.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. And this person, he was my editor. I was in Trajectory magazine for quite a few years, and I learned a lot from him about those unique people that we don't see a lot of.
That was a good one.
Yes.
Let's see. Amanda was asking, is your story available on tape? I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody's are available on tape
Audio?
or Audible or anything on audio. But maybe we'll see what happens. We'll see what the future holds. All right. Let's see here. Stephen Oliver, I don't think I saw him unless we missed him.
No.
Okay.
But we have Nicole.
Nicole, you're up. I loved this story. I'm excited.
Me?
Yes, you're up.
All right. So I'm Nicole Wolverton, and I wrote a story called Terrified Lambs. The inspiration for it came from a trip that I took several years ago to Madrid, Spain. And we were there for the December holidays. My husband works for an airline, so we tend to go to Christmas markets all over the place because we have these very excellent travel benefits. So we were visiting Plaza Mayor, which is the main Christmas market in Madrid. And in the Plaza Mayor, there are rows of, Christmas chalets, the same kind of thing you see at all Christmas markets. But there are only 3 types of chalets, I guess, stores, shops. One sells Halloween masks. Who knows why in December? One sells Christmas ornaments, and the other type sells figurines for nativity scenes. And the figurine that I'm about to describe in the opening is an actual figurine I saw. Sometimes I'm very glad I didn't buy it, even though I was very tempted. So here we go. The booth was stuffed full of ceramic and plastic figurines. A whole row of tan Josephs gazed in every direction, an expression imposed for every occasion. Behind that, a line of Virginal Marys supplicated in 20 different ways. On another shelf, a woman in a long pink robe was frozen mid-pomegranate picking, the tree a twisting anemic specimen. Next to her was a stocky shepherd who stood before a little white lamb, belly up, tied by his back hooves to a bush. The lamb's terror-crazed face bore wide eyes as it watched the shiny silver knife in the shepherd's fist slice up and down, up and down. Is that battery operated? Olive gasped. The shepherd's arm swung in a continuous deadly arc. She stared at the knife as it descended again and again. She could almost hear the terrified lamb's screams. Imagine the intestines splashing out and the blood running down the hillside. It's weirdly mesmerizing. The one noise that wasn't imaginary, audible even over the chatter of the crowds at the Christmas market in Plaza Mayor, a wheezing mechanical click and whoosh of the knife, followed by a metal squeezed groan like the grinding of rusty clock cogs. Olive skin popped goose flesh, and this time not from the cold Madrid air. She jammed her hands in the pocket of her jeans. I think I'm going to buy it. The words were out before Olive realized she even said them aloud. I need a souvenir, right? I'm probably not going to find anything more unique than that. She dug around in her purse for euros and handed them over to the vendor, her eyes focused on the slashing arm and the shiny miniature knife. So that's the opening. And before, I just want to interrupt one thing. I just want to say thanks for making me part of the anthology. It's such an honor to share the TOC with everybody else here. Some of you I know, some of you I don't, but I'm really excited to read all the stories.
Aw.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I did not realize that would be a real thing.
Yeah.
Right. I'm glad you didn't bring it home based on the rest of the story.
Sure. Although I'd love to have it in my collection.
Well, now you have to. It's a thing. We have to find this for you.
A reason to return.
Oh, all right, and I think that's it because I didn't see Laura.
Laura did come in. Laura did come in.
Oh, yay!
Laura, can you hear us?
There she is.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So good to see you guys. It's almost 10 o'clock here on East Coast time in Ohio. But thanks so much for inviting me. I was really excited to participate in this anthology. And so you guys know, I think I got a bit of a pity invite after I told Sarah I had not been accepted to SDSU master's degree, the writing program. She's like, oh, you should write for this anthology here. So thank you, Sarah.
It was a personal invitation.
You got in on your own merit, though. You did.
Absolutely.
It's a really good story. Really, really good story.
So my story is Roman and Ramona, and it is basically a ghost hunter story. And it was inspired by the question, do ghosts have any value? I feel like we can monetize everything these days. There's like oxygen bars where you can buy air, you know? So what if you could find a way to capture the energy of ghosts and turn it into something valuable? So that is the premise of this story. So Roman has a gift, Ramona has a gift, and together they can use these gifts to monetize the energy of ghosts. But the story starts in a hotel room where they're about to capture their first ghost together. And that hotel room was actually inspired by a Comfort Inn room in Tennessee. So that's the inspiration for that. And I would have to exit out of my screen to read a snippet, so I might just leave it there if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Yeah, we understand. It's really fantastic story though. And did not realize that your description of a hotel was based on reality, but we probably should have, because it really was very detailed and gross.
Very specific, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I think that was everybody.
I think so too. Well, first of all, again, guys, thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this anthology. We had such a good time reading all your stories, reading them through, and putting this piece together. And it's truly an honor to be a part of this world with you and a part of our writing world with you. And we also have a great big announcement to make. But I also want to say, too, for everybody who already purchased the book, thank you so, so much. That really helps show us your support, and it means the world for us to see every single purchase. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Release is now officially available pretty much everywhere online, everywhere from Smashwords to not quite Google Play. Everybody but Google Play so far. But yes, it's out there in the universe.
Yeah. So thank you guys for sharing it with your networks.
Okay. So I just put in the chat our Google email for No Bad Books Press. So if you'd like to come check it out, let us know, and we'll send you all the information about the where, the when. And I'm always about if the spirit moves you on Halloween weekend, feel free to dress up and wear a costume. Just saying, I won't judge. So, and I also don't want to be the only one dressing up.
I was going to say, you're dressing up.
That's really it. I just don't want to be alone. But you'll know how to find us. Look for the people in costumes, because I'm sure nobody on October 30th at a brewery will be in costumes, right? Just me. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So we have a great big here announcement to make, and hopefully I can share my screen properly this time. We can do it. We can do it. Zoom, I believe. Okay. So we have something coming in the wings. This is going to be our very first a traditionally published book by an author who is not Teresa or me. So this is in the wings. This is our No Bad Books Press's very first book coming. And Teresa, would you like to share the name?
It's called The Gulch Jumpers. And I love this book. It's a fantastic journey of three people who are at pivotal points in their life, and they go on a road trip to ask the crossroads a question. And it's all different stories. So it's, so our tagline is, what would you ask the crossroads for?
Or would you sell your soul to the crossroads?
That's what it was, yes.
And if you're not familiar with the Crossroads tale or the legend, it's fascinating. Robert Johnson, I believe, was the musician who years ago was fantastic at any instrument he picked up. He could play it because he was a savant. But the legend was that he sold his soul to the crossroads. And so this is a reverse Robert Johnson, as it is said in the books, that he's going back to not sell his soul, but his music. And so it's a very, very good read. My interview with our first author, Catherine Pomeroy, will be coming out the first week of November, and that's going to be all about this book. And this book will be launching November 4th.
And if you're into blues music like I am, this book, has my minutia about blues music. I learned so much. So it's
and
a
bluegrass.
It's a fantastic, fantastic read. All right. We can open up the floor. Do you guys have questions, comments?
The author is Catherine Pomeroy.
Yeah.
How many?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask how many submissions you received for the released.
So released has 19 authors in it, and we got over 50 submissions. I didn't count them all, but yeah, over 50.
And we read every single one. We really did.
Oh yeah.
What was the most challenging part of picking the stories, and then like just the overall process then of trying to put this anthology together?
Time.
That'll do it.
And also so there are two parts there. So the first one was the mistake we made from the get-go was not putting out a genre off the bat or a general theme. We were just like, released. And so we got a wide range, but then we started to see that we were primarily getting horror. And so we had to try to change gears because we were thinking it was going to be just broad spec fiction. So, all the what ifs, fantasy, sort of. Honestly, we're really going for more fairy tale.
And we didn't get a single fairy tale one. We didn't get a single one.
Which worked out, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually worked out way for the better because the majority ended up being horror. And choosing which ones that came in were either perfect fits for once we realized, majority of this is horror, let's embrace it, let's just roll with it. Fate is telling us to go with horror. Once we figured that, then we were able to kind of shorten the pool or shrink the pool. And then from there, we really looked at the quality of the writing and the quality of the story. And then so we were able to just kind of narrow it down until we came to You're 19.
Yeah, I think I spent other than just the editing part of it, I spent way too much time probably trying to figure out the order. Poor Sarah. Trying to figure out the order because all these stories are so different. We have psychological horror. We have, we have my story, which is Mad Scientist. We have some sci-fi elements with telepathy. And we have everything in between. We have a wonderful, wonderful story about missing children. We have a story about that's titled Crawling Skin. Use your imagination.
Such a good one.
It's fantastic. We have one called Gentle and Hate. And so I spent so much time trying to figure out kind of the vibe of this one, because what we're doing is we're tugging emotions. So where do we have like the take a deep breath ones? Where do we have the ones that are momentarily like, oh my God. And then where do we have the ones that, stick with you and you're like, I'm scared to go to sleep tonight.
And there are a few.
Yeah. So that to me was a really, really fun.
Nice.
I think another big challenge that we encountered that we weren't aware of prior to this was, and Amanda Mason, I do see your question in the chat, so we'll get to that right after this. We've only published, Teresa was published traditionally, and then we republished Warehouse Dreams via No Bad Books Press. But this was the first multi-authored endeavor that we did, and our first truly official No Bad Books Press venture. So there were some things that we thought we had nailed down pat, the Ingram Spark expectations, the distributor printer, the Smashwords expectations. And then we just hit wall after wall after wall. And they're like, well, you're a publisher now. It's official. So you have to do it this way. And we're like, what the hell? Like, why can't it all be the same? And so those were one of the things that really, I think, surprised us. But were such a fantastic learning experience for us, because now we know for our next books to expect, XYZ, to know, okay, for Ingram Spark, they expect this kind of format, but for Smashwords, they don't want fonts embedded. And just like these very interesting minutia details that we've taken extensive notes on, just so that the process becomes smoother and smoother with every step we take.
Got
it. So Amanda asks, are you holding other stories that are not horror that were submitted for this release for further or future ones?
No, we're not. We really wanted to release those back to the authors so that they could try to find a home for them. Anthologies submissions are such that we want people to get their works out and not be waiting on it. I think that was another thing that was very important to us, was to give people answers fast, so that they could just be like, all right, that was a no, or that was a yes. And then I'm moving on, and you can kind of plan your career that way. We've all waited and it sucks. And we didn't want to do that to people.
Because we're authors first and foremost, and we get it. We've done the querying thing. We've received the rejections, so we get that on a very deep level, and we want to do everything we can to try to promote our authors and to encourage them to grow. Even if they're not necessarily the right fit for our current anthology, we still want to give them that freedom to be able to continue their journey.
Chris asked, do we plan to do another anthology? I had so much fun doing this. So yes, we have a lot of really good ideas for one. I want to do a true ghost stories one, where people submit like their true experiences with ghosts and paranormal. I would also love to do a from the point of view of a cat ones. Molly, but I think that would be a lot of fun. So we'll see what the future holds. This was a lot though, and we really learned a lot about timing as I was on vacation, and Sarah was like, we need to be done with this. And I'm like, but I'm on vacation.
I felt terrible. I was like, I know you're on a beach in Hawaii, but can you look at this?
Hence my TikTok video of me bringing a computer to the beach.
Oh, thank you, Marcia, for buying the ebook.
Oh, thank you. What other questions do you guys have?
Cats usually do see ghosts first. That is definitely, they're like, hey, human, like there's a thing. You need to acknowledge the thing. Why aren't you acknowledging the thing? Definitely know exactly that experience.
What's your plan for more books, and how many are you looking to publish a year?
As many as we can, without killing ourselves. I still work full time. So what are plans? Good question.
We want to say, so So over the next year, or what's ahead? Let's start there. So we're kind of a 5-year plan, and we were actually exponentially racing ahead with it. And it's an interesting balance because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves because, Teresa does have a full-time job still, and life happens, and that's important for us to remember constantly. And we're constantly reminding ourselves, like, is it healthy to be working another 4 hours after a 10-hour day? Is that good? So we're trying to figure out that balance, and if we do, fantastic. We are getting there. And so what's ahead right now is we have the Gulch Jumpers in November. We're shooting to get my short story, The Blue Dragon Society Origins, out in November. It is the introduction to the next series I'm putting out. So next January, February, we'll do Blue Dragon Society, the full novel, which is a dark fantasy novel. Then we also have Warehouse Dreams sequel ahead. I'm not saying any dates for you. I'm not marrying you to a date. We have River City Widows ahead. We have another Lost book. So for those of you who aren't familiar with our Lost book that we did one on the Star of India, which is all about the true ghost stories that people, staff members, and volunteers have experienced at the Maritime Museum of San Diego's historic tall ships, Star of India. I worked there for 7 years and experienced all sorts of bizarre happenings aboard. And so Teresa and I wrote this creative nonfiction book about what we believe, based on a lot of research, life was like for the people coming aboard and what trapped them there, why they stay, as well as the experiences of staff and volunteers interacting with them. And so our next book that we're going to be co-writing is going to be about haunted places, in particularly bars
and
hotels in San Diego.
Yeah.
And so we're going to try to replicate that feel of drawing from the historical records. And we actually had a fantastic tour of Old Town from one of the archaeologists who was a part of the Cosmopolitan restoration project. So we just had that like a month and a half ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably our next big one, if you will.
Yeah, but I think in 2022, what we'd really like to do is take on orphaned books. So take on books that they're either they got halfway through the publishing process and the press that they were with closed, or they got stuck in the self-publishing process and they need some help with it. Because there's a lot of fantastic books out there that just have not been able to get out there. We'll also take on, I know unfortunately, a lot of small presses have to close their doors and they'll release books back to the authors. And then the authors are like, well, now what do I do with it? So what we'd like to do is assist those authors with that. So I'll see you later. All right. Anything else, you guys? I know it's getting late, especially for people on the East Coast.
Or in Australia. We had someone here from Australia. I didn't even realize. And, to just kind of echo that of we really want to help other authors. Yeah. I think that's our biggest flag. And I think that was one of the things that drew Teresa and me together to begin with, because we'd both been through the road of rejections and seeing other authors who had fantastic stories, but just weren't able to get that luck of the draw with, an agent or with the publication house directly, or whose press closed, like she was saying. And so, the kind of the No Bad Books press thing is we're tired of seeing good books get left behind. And so that's our biggest thing, is we just want to help other authors. And that's a big part of the Semi-Sages as well, where we're just trying to get out our stories as much as possible so that other authors, because we have a very solitary profession. So other authors hear, oh, shoot, that happened to me too. I'm not alone. And likewise with Cheers Dears, my podcast, we're trying to just get the stories of indie or smaller traditionally published authors out there, just to get them into the hands of as many readers as possible.
All right. And with that, I think it's time to end it. So thank you everybody so very much for your support and your stories. Thank you. This was so much fun. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you on the 30th.
Alrighty, guys. Cheers. Thank you. Have a great night.